So this tip is all about posture, and posture is so important to set you up to hit a good shot every time. If you don't start off in the correct position, you're really fighting an uphill battle to hit the best possible shot that you can. So I've got 5 things that if you do these every single time, you will set yourself up correctly and you won't go wrong. So number 1 is width of stance. Now there's 2 widths of stance to consider when you're setting up for your shot. One is for your driver and one is for everything else, pretty much. So let's start with our irons and our fairway woods and our hybrids and that sort of thing. The stance is going to be shoulder width. Now if you're not sure if your shoulder width, there's a little trick that you can use to tell. It's a little bit awkward, but what you can do is take your club, pop it down on the ground behind you and just measure using your fingers shoulder width across. So that gives you an idea if your feet are shoulder width, because sometimes you start getting narrow, you don't realize you are, you think you're shoulder width, but you're actually not. So that's an awkward way to do it, but it is a way to tell if your feet are shoulder width. You can also have a look in the mirror, you know, maybe in a big sliding window that you've got at the golf club, you can just check. So shoulder width for irons, fairway woods. Now for the driver, we're going to go a little bit wider. We're just adding an extra inch or so on either side, and that just gives you a better base, a better support for your swing. Obviously the driver is a longer club, it's the longest club in the bag. We need a bit more width for our setup position for the driver. So that's the only 2 things, shoulder width for most clubs, a little bit wider for your driver. Obviously when you're chipping and pitching you might come in a bit narrow, but for the basic swing that's your 2 things to consider. Now tip number 2 is weight distribution, and this is really, really important because I see a lot of people who set up and they have the weight sitting back a little bit into the heels, and the problem then is that you start adding knee bend and you lose your balance and you get lack of space in here. So we need to feel that the weight is forward into the front of the feet, or into the balls of the feet, you might say. So when you're setting up, you want to feel that the weight's forward. It's that sort of basic ready to go position. And if the weight's distributed correctly, it will actually monitor the knee bend, which we'll talk about in a second. Okay, so weight forward in your stance is really important. Don't let the weight start to sit back in the heels, because you're going to find you have to add knee bend to keep balance, and then you lose the space in here to swing. All right. So our tip number 3 is ball position. So this is really important, and it will change for the different clubs. Okay, hopefully you can see my clubs down there on the ground. Ball position will vary from club to club, but there's really only about 6 inches from the furthest back position to the furthest forward position. So the furthest back position, or the shortest club that we hit with a full swing, is our pitching wedge or sand wedge. So that will be in the middle of our feet. So that's our ball position for our pitching wedge or wedges. And our driver goes forward in line with the inside of the front heel. So that's our 2 extremes, wedge and drive, and everything else will graduate in between. So you go wedge, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, hybrid, fairway wood, driver. So you're basically graduating forward from your wedge to your driver, and there's only about 6 inches in between. So that's your ball position. That will really ensure that you connect crisply with your shots. Ball position is quite important. If you've got your wedge too far forward, you're probably going to hit it thin. If you've got your driver too far back, you're going to hit the ball too low. So things will change as you move your ball position around. That's why it's quite important to get that right. Tip number 4 in our little series of the 5 best posture tips is left arm or leading arm straight. Now this is really important to ensure that you have a good connection through impact. So if you start with your left arm or leading arm straight, then you're much more likely to have it straight through impact, which is so important. So this is our impact position here. If you start with it bent, which a lot of people do because they're worried about leveling the shoulders off. So if you start with it bent, you're more likely to be bent at impact, which obviously we don't want to be. So left arm straight, which drops the right shoulder down. So left arm, a left shoulder higher than right, which is a natural position because your right hand is lower than your left. So allow this tilt of the shoulders. That's really important to allow that to happen. Don't feel you need to level the shoulders off, because then you'll bend that left elbow. So left arm or leading arm is straight, which encourages that straightness at impact, and you get this nice tilt in your shoulders, and this is your correct setup position with the leading arm straight. And tip number 5, our final one, and also a really important one, is knee bend. How much knee bend do you need in your posture? And a lot of people ask me this question, and I also see a lot of people flexing their knees a lot to start off the swing. So they'll set up and they'll start doing a bit of this, knowing they're meant to have knee bend, but this can add too much. If you end up sitting here, again, as I said before, you've got no space in here to swing, your balance is out, really easy to top the ball from here. So how do you know how much knee bend you need? What we're going to do is we're going to lock our knees straight and then just gently unlock them while you feel the weight forward. So that's your little trick for getting the right knee bend. Lock them straight, gently unlock them, feeling the weight forward, and that's going to get you exactly the right position and the right amount of knee bend. All right, so we've got our 5, we've got our width of stance, we've got our weight distribution, we've got our ball positions correct. We're going to keep our leading arms straight, and we've got the right amount of knee bend. So if you put all those together, you're basically going to look a little bit like this. A really nice, dynamic, athletic, ready to go position. If you think of any sport, imagine you're receiving a shot in tennis in a serious game. Put the club down, you're in exactly the same position. So it's an athletic, ready to pounce, ready to go sort of position. So keep that in mind and you won't go too far wrong with your posture in golf. And now for the bonus tip. Now this is something that I do with my students all the time and it works really well, but I have zero scientific proof that this works. But give it a try, it might work for you. I found it works really well. And all you're going to do, once you've got your setup right, using our 5 tips, I want you to just engage your core. And all that means is to just suck your tummy in before you go. So that just sets you up, gets you nice and solid, and I have a feeling you'll hit a better shot if you engage your core just before you hit. All right, so that's everything posture. Practice it a little bit at home. Don't try and think of everything when you're out on the course. Get in front of the mirror, maybe video yourself so you can check your posture. But posture is one of the easiest things to get right, and it's so important to get right. You've got the time to do it, so practice it a little bit, and good luck with getting the right posture. Yeah. Hey Benny, let's see if we can hit at the same time. Yeah? Okay, I'm gonna watch you. Okay, tell me when you're one look and then hit, is it?
Yeah.
Okay. I think that was pretty close, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Let's try again.
Pretty good.
Mine was a better shot though.
Oh wow.
They're going to hit in the air.
That was really close. Wow.
Okay, ready?